And hello. So here we are. Here we go. Another Monday and another Toni McLelland show. So we've already got Melody joining us. Thanks, Melody. Lovely to have you here. So critical reflections. And what are we talking about today, Mike? We've got Mike Vacanti, who you should all know by now, our resident co-host guest. So how are you, Mike?
I'm doing very well, Toni. I'm always excited to join you. This is fun.
And I'm always excited for you to join me too. So let's say hi to a few people. We've got a number of people joining us here. Do drop hello in the comments and let us know where you're watching from. We'd love to get you involved. We'd love to mention you, ask your questions. So this isn't just about me and Mike. It's about all of you in the conversation together. So let's say hi to Melody from Massachusetts. Thank you. Melody's a regular, and hopefully one day we're going to see Melody here on this side of this. So we've got Amadi, who's over in Nigeria. Thank you for joining us. So who have we got? Who else have we got? I've got Mary from Georgia. Okay, there you go. So thank you so much, Mary. And I've also got Adafunky. Hi, Adafunky. Lovely to have you join us here. Another regular. So get your questions ready. We've got Nicola from UK, and we've got Emma from East Sussex. Beg your pardon, East Sussex. Thank you. So we've got a few from the UK and others from Nigeria and the US. So, right, we've got 30 minutes. Let's see if we can do this topic some justice in terms of trust, Mike. And if you've got any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. So I'm just going to kick this off. And this one is not necessarily even one for you, Mike. This is one for those people that are tuned in right now. We've got Marina, who's from Lesotho. Thank you for joining us, Marina. Lovely to have you here. Now, trust is hard to build and easy to lose. Mm-hmm. True or false? And I'm asking that one to the people that are, watching right now. Trust is hard to build and easy to lose. True or false? Just put true or false in the chat and we will pick that up. Let's hear what Mike has got to say on that. True or false, Mike?
I am true on that question, Toni.
Okay.
It is very easy to lose. And I have a lot to share about my thoughts on how it's easy to lose and even some ideas on how we can think about trust to keep it fresh.
Okay. So we've got a few people that are joining us here. So Emma's saying true, Melody saying true. We've got Mary that's also saying true as well. So there's a number of us that are saying yes, it's absolutely true. Hard to build. So let's talk about the hard to build bit. How do we build trust, Mike? Let's kick off with that.
Well, Toni, That's a funny question to ask me because fundamentally, I do not believe we can build trust. I think that build and trust is something we commonly say and hear and just accept as a notion. But I don't believe it can be built. I think that trust is a continual experience. And so when we look at a lot of the trust equations, right, we often see like it put into a form of a pyramid where trust is a foundational piece of a pyramid. Patrick Lencioni, who is a thought leader in this area on teams and work and trust, he has a pyramid. His teachings are great, by the way. I'm a fan of Patrick Lencioni, but I very much disagree with him on trust cannot be a foundational piece because it is so fragile, because you can lose it so quickly, that we can't be crumbling a foundation and then have to start over and recreate it. So I believe this, Toni, trust is best thought of as an outcome, not an objective. It's a terrible objective. It's a fabulous outcome. In other words, if we have a vine that is growing fruit, trust is the wonderful fruit produced by the vine. It's not the vine itself. And so trust is a great outcome. It's not a great foundation or objective. That's my belief.
So would you say that we are continually working and building on trust? So it's always evolving.
Yes. And in each interaction. So I think of this, Toni, I trust you as a person, our friendship, our relationship over a long period of time. I trust you. However, because I trust you so thoroughly, does that mean that I absolutely trust each of your words or each of your actions? And my inclination would be yes, but there always has to be that discernment of that doesn't resonate with me. And when I can step up and say, Toni, that didn't seem congruent with our relationship or what I've experienced before, it actually, that flows back to where we were last week with psychological safety. If I can address that with you, now we're actually demonstrating trust in our relationship because we're having a conversation that might be taboo, rather than just to say, I trust Toni, so everything Toni says, I trust. And I think that's a differentiator we can explore.
But the other side of it is as well, Mike, I think is, sorry, it's coming in with the hand movements here. It's about trusting the fact that we, if there is a difference, that we can work it through and come out still, trusting of each other. Do you see? Trust in our honesty and our integrity. Do you see what I mean? So it's almost like it's almost a little bit like that. Let me just bring some of the other comments in right now. So who else have we got? We've got Emma that's saying relationships are key to trust. Yeah, we've got some key components that we think, and I'm going to share some of them with you just very shortly. We've got Victor, New York. Andrew, thank you for joining us. And who have we got? We've got Ali from Bangladesh. Thank you so much. If you have any contributions on this subject, then please feel free to share. Good morning, Dan. I know it's very, very early for you where you are. So we've got Jeremiah from Ghana. Thank you. I think we've got a universal, global audience here today, Mike.
Yeah.
So Jeremiah is saying about relationship, and I think that trust is a good thing in all relationships as well. Thank you. And we've got Melody that's saying trust is parallel to integrity. Someone who has integrity, you will trust even when they make mistakes. So you trust them to do the right thing is how I would kind of look at that. I think trust is something that also is, when there's trust there, you know where you stand, whether that's in a good place or a bad place, but you know where you stand. So I actually canvassed, a group previously, and some of the things that they came up with in terms of components of trust are reliability. So we done a word cloud as well, and reliability was one of the things. And it brings me to this whole piece of, is trust something that is consistency over time? If you're consistently doing something, consistently reliable over a period of time, that the trust, develops, and maybe it gets deeper or not, or is it's at different places, isn't it? But
We
reliability,
depend on it. I love that, Toni. We can then depend on it when it's consistent.
yeah. But it's when we depend on it and we're let down that is that's really kind of like when it's hard to come back from that. Because I was just kind of thinking about that word dependable, and how heavy that word can feel when we depend on someone, we rely on someone, we know that they're never going to let you down, they're always going to be there, and something doesn't happen, and so that's when we can sometimes lose that trust. So I'm just going to throw some other pieces out. It's about respect for character. This is just some of the things that were canvassed: honesty, integrity, vulnerability was one of the things that came in as well. I'm going to bring in some of the audience contributions. Forgiveness is really, really an interesting one. Openness, credibility, reputation and credibility. Does that person have credibility, and do you feel confident in the abilities of that person? So, the other way I would describe this is demonstrated competence.
Right.
If someone has demonstrated competence and is showing consistency over time, then trust is also there. So while you're thinking about that one there, Mike, so I'm going to bring in a few other people. So we have Philippe. Lovely to have you join us here. Great conversation. Trust and transparency build stronger relationships. Integrity will grow as the trust grows over time. Absolutely. Thank you so much. Trust and transparency. I absolutely love that, because I have a public sector background, and one of the things that that was embedded within us is about the Nolan's principles, the 7 Nolan's principles: selflessness, integrity, objectivity, accountability, openness, honesty, and leadership. And these are some of the things that can build trust. So thank you so much, Philippe. We've got Amadi that's saying to have trust in a relationship means that you feel a sense of security and loyalty with your partner. Thank you, Mike. I'm going to ask you to kind of feed in on some of these. The congruence between a person's words and actions are what allows me to trust them. The same for an organization. And what we've got is Philippe saying, agree, Toni, once that trust is lost, it's hard to gain it back. Not impossible, but really difficult. And I think that's when Mike said that word depend, depend, rely upon, in the hands of, almost, isn't it?
Yes.
Should we just stay there for a moment?
Yeah, and I love this, Toni. The comments are fabulous, and that's why I'm so happy just to be here quiet, because I'm learning from the thoughts shared from Nicole and Philippe and all of those who have joined us today. Nicola's words are fabulous, right? The congruence between words and actions, I think, is so critical to explore. We're often told things that we don't experience. And so how can it be true if we don't experience it? If I hear something and there's not congruence in the action, then I have a hard time reconciling truth and trust. And I think that they do go together. We miss that sometimes. Those are beautiful thoughts. I think of this, Toni, it's like, in a team situation, can you imagine if I'm a leader and I walk into my team and I wander over toward you on my team and I lean in and I say, Toni, would you like to build some trust today? And you would look at me like, Mike, that's kind of creepy.
The thing about it is once you have to actually say it,
yeah,
it's just something that you do naturally, isn't it?
yes.
You just do naturally. And it's something that I feel.
Right.
I'm a very feely person. So I like to feel things, go with my emotion, my instinct. Those are the things. It's not necessarily something that you see, that I see. It's something that I feel.
Right. How many of us have woken up in the morning and saying, "Oh, here's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to go build some trust." That's my objective for the day. Is I'm going to go.
About it is, Mike. This is really, really interesting because while you don't build trust, and some might say that trust is foundational, some might say that you earn it over a period of time. I actually feel that there are some roles that and some duties that people are in where we have to put our trust in them and we don't even know who they are. It could be, you're going for an operation and the surgeon, you have to put your trust.
Yes.
We don't know who they are, but we have to follow through on something. So ultimately there is that piece around trust with people that and that you've developed, and it's changed at different levels and it's evolving.
Yes.
And there's other things like I'm trusting that train driver or that pilot to get me to my destination safely and on time. So there's different types of things, and depending on who it is will depend on how we feel about it. So what's your thoughts on that, Mike? And then I'll bring some
Yeah. So I do believe that, Toni. I think of it this way oftentimes is, and we can, I can think of some really practical examples that that are common to all of us, even over the last couple of years. So with the pandemic and vaccines, right? We were told things and we were told to trust the science. And now we're further down the path, and there's more information, and there's more understanding, more research. There's longevity to the process of people being vaccinated and the efficacy of all of that and the virus. And so there's this decision we kind of look at is, do I trust the psychology of something over the biology of something? And so I have this trust thing where I think of three symbols: a greater than, an equal to, or a less than symbol. And if I were to take conflicting things and I was to insert a greater than, equal to, less than, that really helps me understand my level of trust. And I think this gets back to what Nicola said earlier about words and actions. Were the words greater than the actions? Were the words equal to the actions? Were the words less than the actions, right? So what do I trust? What I'm being told or what I experience? And
that's right. And you've brought a really, really good word in there, and that is experience. Because your experience will determine your level of trust at the outset anyway, and, if you're skeptical about something. But ultimately, just coming back to that other piece about the leadership and the whole thing around the pandemic, misinformation, and, our leaders are allowed to get it wrong, and if they do, It's about being open, integrous, and saying, look, we got it wrong, but we're going to get it right. You know, even though we feel that they shouldn't have got it wrong, but there is an element of the communication. But it's when that communication isn't there, it alters things, because it makes people feel as if you're hiding something, or you don't want to admit that you're wrong. So we can't trust the information that comes from you. And so there's that whole element of how you manage that whole situation, isn't it?
Yes.
Will depend as well. So while you're thinking about that, Mike, I'm just going to bring in, wow, we've got some really good comments here. So we should be confident in trusting ourselves as well before we can trust others. And that's exactly it. And if I don't trust myself, then it's really, really difficult. Thank you so much for that, Nicola. So who we got here? We've got, who have we got? It's Matu, who's saying it's empowering, letting your staff know that you think highly of them, you value them enough to trust them with a task and have high expectations because you know they can bring it. And it reminds me of something that I said to somebody last week around, well, you said to me that you are a leader, so off you go and lead. Trust for me, this is Adafunke, trust for me is being a person of your word and delivering on your word. So we've got Denise from Houston. Always a pleasure to have you here with us. We've got an intangible, valuable. Thank you, Nicola. Amadi is saying trust can never be restored until the person whose trust was broken allows their subject a chance to earn it back. And the thing about it is, Mike, please speak to this, because the thing about it is with me, when it comes to trust and losing trust in somebody, it really depends on how I felt when that trust was lost. Was that absolutely detrimental? Can I risk feeling like that again? If the answer to me is an absolute no-go, then I'm not going to trust you.
Yes.
It's really as simple as that, because you hurt me so much. And maybe this is where one of the words that came up on the word cloud was forgiveness.
Forgiveness.
Yeah, because, it's like, but actually, maybe I might not want to forgive you because I don't want to trust you again.
Right.
Because the hurt was so bad. So let me just move on, and maybe that piece is there. So speak to that for a moment, Mike.
So good, right? So how important is, how much do we value the relationship, right? And so if like I value my relationship with you very dearly, Toni, and so I would hope that when I err, and I will, because last time I checked, I'm pretty human. I will err, and I will hope that you will allow us to reset. And that's what that forgiveness piece is. Yes, I recognize the error. The relationship is valuable, and we're going to hit the reset button. So there's this forgiveness. Now, the important piece is, again, this is the fruit of the vine thing. We have to, over time, grow new healthy fruit. We want to grow that fruit of trust. It's not just there automatically, right? We can't just go to the market and get a basket of trust, right? It has to grow again. It has to be nurtured again. It has to be fed and watered and created anew. But the willingness,
demonstrated as well. Yeah.
And there's a funny one that popped up here, Toni. I'm reading ahead in the comments a little bit, right? But Henry is here with us, and there's something really interesting in the conversation of trust where it says, "Why do you keep popping up in my notifications? Who are you? So annoying," right? And so that's a not fitting to the conversation, right? It's popping in LinkedIn.
And I'm going to say to Henry, because maybe the reason why this is popping up in your notifications is because maybe you need us in your life. So if you don't, then cut the notification. but hey, there's a reason why you're here. Anyway.
And here's a point I wanted to make on that, Toni, is do we trust the algorithm, right? So as we're spending our time on social media, if something becomes popular, do we necessarily trust it because it's become popular? Or do we trust the person sharing information and therefore, although it's not popular, it is true and trustworthy? And I think we get mixed up in that sometimes. Like the loudest thing we're inclined to trust because it seems popular, where the thing that might be true and trustworthy isn't getting that kind of attention.
Now, Mike, I like that observation. Thank you. And thank you for sharing that with us. So that was really, really on point. And I hope you all got that, because it makes a big difference. It makes a big difference in terms of the loudest and, the accurate that is trustworthy, and there's a whole story that I could share in relation to that, but I won't do that right now. I'm going to come back to some of these comments because I want to make sure that we get them all. We did come back to Amadi, and that was about rebuilding, or getting that trust back to where it was, and if I want to go back there, sometimes we meet people and we trust them straight away, but others you just know straight away you cannot trust. And that's about instinct, isn't it? Some of that is about instinct, and intuition comes into there as well. So thank you, the Funky. And, for me and the stage of life that I'm in professionally as well, is that if I feel something, I need to share it if I'm asked that question. So if in response to what Adefunky said, and I feel that there's something about somebody that I don't trust, and they ask me, I'm open enough to share that it made me feel a particular way, or it made me feel as if I didn't trust. I'm happy to share that. And not a lot of people do share those types of things in honesty. So let's hear.
You know who's best at it, Toni?
Sorry?
Babies. Like, have you ever seen, like, when you have a friend that's holding a baby and a person walks up to that baby and, is kind of cooing over them, and, oh, the baby, and all of a sudden that stranger danger pops in. It's like we all have that. And somehow we're programmed to lose that over time. But what Adefunky was saying is we have that innate nature. Like a baby sees stranger danger and they become fearful, they sense something. Mm-hmm. And I think trusting our instincts, trusting ourselves, is a really important piece to this. I think that's a really great addition.
And also there's a question that comes to me, and that is, do I want to surrender myself to you? Actually, right. Because there is an element of that in it. And if I trust somebody, do I want to put myself wholly in that place?
Right.
Would I want to do that? So, this is something there. Sorry?
There's some vulnerability there.
Yeah, and there's some real accountability as well in there too, because and that's another word that we haven't mentioned very much, accountability. And it's one of the things that if if you have your staff trust you, and they've demonstrated that they do trust you.
Right.
You are accountable to them.
Yes. And that's where the actions and words again are such an important piece to this, the experience and the words. It's, if we ever hear "because I said so," that's not trustworthy.
And the other side of it as well is, and one of the things I've seen a lot on social media, or whether it be LinkedIn or other places, is, don't trust this person because this is the experience I had with them. Do you see what I mean? It's like, well, actually, does it mean that your experience is going to be the same as mine?
Yeah.
Does it mean that I should just keep that in mind? Does it mean that I'm just going to do you see what I mean? And there is that thing of so-and-so said, and so ultimately we shouldn't enter into that space of trust. So there's a whole whole piece really there that can be quite detrimental, you know, and people buy into it. So let's hear what Philippa's saying. In my life, I trust people initially. It's theirs to lose. I won't be naive, but I would rather trust first than being skeptical all the time. I just keep my eyes wide open to see any warning signs. I worked with an organization once, and they said that their previous leader, you know, was somebody who instilled a culture of, I will give you one opportunity and I will trust you first. And if you lose that trust, then it's gone.
Right.
Yeah. And what it created for this organization was a place of, you know, blame culture and fear of getting things wrong. So that's what that kind of created there. So interesting. Melody, that's such a great perspective, Mike. I'm not sure, but they've all been great perspectives. So let's Melody saying to Henry, perhaps the universe has a reason that that's happening for you. So you know, Dan has just tagged Rachel into this conversation. Dan saying, love the hair. Thank you so much. You know,
I second.
Thank you. And I trust your opinion. Thank you, Tony. Mike, trust Tony is amazing. Thank you so much, Dolly. Lovely to have you here. Dan saying that he trusts me. So that's really, really interesting. Thank you. Can I just say, I'm very trustworthy, actually. I'm extremely trustworthy.
I have experienced that with continuity over a long period of time.
Yeah, well, but it's not something that you do deliberately, is it? I just do it naturally, and whatever comes naturally. And if people feel that there's a level of trust as a result of that, then a result of me being me, then that's great. Trusting a person can be very tricky as we trust what's shown to us, which could backfire on us. Some act trustworthy with a different motive. Absolutely. And the thing about it is that there's that vulnerability though, Mike, isn't there? When you completely trust somebody, you feel vulnerable too, don't you?
Yes.
So is there anything that you want to say on that?
Well, I do believe that there's this grace, right? There's this forgiveness along with that vulnerability. When I shared earlier that I hope that there's trust in our relationship, Tony. However, I know that I will make an error. I do that. Hopefully less than more, but it certainly does happen. And I think that, you know, we have to understand that we're not dealing in absolutes. That and that is why I think in a trusted environment at work or a trusted relationship, we're able to have the conversations to help us work through those things. And so I think all of those elements are really important to understand. And those skills are something that we can continue to develop, which will allow us to be better in living in trusted environments or creating trusted environments, because we will make mistakes.
Absolutely.
And trust is not an absolute.
That's what I was just gonna come in with that. Absolutely, because we're all human. We get human error, and trust shouldn't necessarily be solely based upon that error, you know. And actually it could be that, you know, there's an error of something and a conversation is had and but it doesn't have to be that trust is lost.
Right.
You know, what happens for me personally when trust might falter is if I have that conversation with somebody after something has happened and they are hell-bent on they were right, they would done this. There's no openness in terms of their thinking about how it affected others or how I was affected or anything. So then for me, if there's no give or no open thinking around that, then that trust is definitely going to falter.
Beautiful thought, Tony. And I think of it this way: is for me, I like it's important I don't entangle trust with disagreement.
That's right. That's right.
Right. So again, I trust you. When we come to a point where we have a disagreement, I don't throw trust out because they're not entangled. These are things we discuss and we're finding agreement. And again, it's pretty fluid. And then over here, this trust is my experience. It's over time. It's solid. Disagreement and trust have to stay divided. They cannot become entangled.
Right. They can't. And I think that that's a really good way. And that's really one thing that we could share with people today, that they are two completely separate things. You know, people can disagree. They can continue to disagree. But what they can do is trust each other to be responsible about that disagreement, trust each other to be open to learning. If there is any learning to take place from that. So, and really trust each other to keep developing the trust. To
get to a resolution. I trust in the possibility of resolution.
That's right. I like that. So that's really, really great. Thank you. So let's just get some more of these contributions in. Where am I? There's so many. Okay, so who have I got? I think this is Matu. Trusting a person can be very tricky as we trust what's shown to us. I had that one already. Thank you so much. Words are cheap. They aren't enough to earn my trust. Actions speak louder than words. Thank you so much. You don't need to say, do you trust me? You know, actually, you need to just carry on and do the things that will embed trust and make sure that it's consistently evolving. So perfectly right. So who have we got? How do you work around the employee who refuses to trust due to their own insecurities? But then you work on their own insecurities. Yeah. And it doesn't mean that you should falter in terms of what you know is the right thing to do. And you shouldn't change your consistency. You keep going with that consistency and it's there. I have been in scenarios where I've entered into really difficult situations, not knowing myself what the outcome could be, but having a team that trusted me.
Right.
To make the right judgments at that time. And for me to share that information is what got me through and out the other side. Thank you, Mike. Sorry.
Toni, I just wanted to share, and I'll make it a short story, which you don't trust that's possible for me. So I was thrust into 5 mergers and acquisitions, right? And so going in as a leader to a group where there's fear and doubt and chaos happening, right? So it's like, you're the person now put in charge. I don't trust you because I don't like the whole scenario. And when I walked in and shared with people, here's where we're going to try to go. This is the way I would like us to approach it as a team. This is the way I'll try to lead us. Many of them just like, well, that's BS, right? That won't happen, Mike, and I don't trust you. And they didn't say that outright, but certainly that was that was the experience we had together. And for me, I stayed on point and allowed them to find their way to that trust over time. So I couldn't look to end that, afternoon we spent together in a meeting saying, by the end of the day, you're going to trust me or you're out, right? It was like, I understand your distrust. I'm going to continue to behave in this way to foster this environment, and hopefully you'll get there over time. And allowing them to live with that distrust until the point they saw the congruency between the words and the actions.
Absolutely. And that's the key bit, isn't it? That is the key bit.
I have one.
You can't force it. You can't force it. You've got to let people get there in their own time.
And it happens. And I've seen it again and again and again. It happens. And it's a beautiful outcome.
And that's the thing, because when I've gone into organizations, yours is mergers and acquisitions, but mine is really more around change and those types of things. And, can we trust this person to lead us through? But because I'm only there for a short period of time,
right,
really, a lot of what I have to do is bring them with me, show them, empower them to take ownership and lead this so that I can take a step back and exit. And so really, the trust is about, do you trust yourself to do this? Yeah. So that they're not trusting me necessarily. Do they trust themselves? And so I'm kind of pushing it back on them because I know that I'm not going to be there for a long period of time. But I just really want to kind of draw some of this to a close now. We've got Leslie. Thank you for joining us, Leslie. Who else have we got? We've got some contributions, again, from Melody. We all make mistakes. Honesty and integrity play an important role in mending any trust issues. Absolutely. Nicola is saying, I think for our teams, transparency, clarity, communication, and consistency, what bring about a culture of trust. Absolutely. In fact, I've got an audio room on Wednesday, which is about organizational culture and what helps this. Integrity is key. So you heard me say about the 7 Nolan's principles that's embedded within everything that I do. And, we've got someone that's saying, from my experience, trust is built over time, but you must have a mindset that allows people to make mistakes and learn from them. That is the key. Having that mindset that is open, people grow, people change. Thank you. And I'm just going to share a few other contributions that came from my, when I canvassed a few others. Trust is implicit but grows through time and action, but confidence is earned only by the consistent action of others. 4 legs that hold up the table of trust: honesty, consistency, empathy, and respect. So imagine that this trust is a table and it has 4 legs, and those 4 legs are honesty, consistency, empathy, and respect. And I love the way that that feels, because then you're holding that up. Another says, we are born with trust. The first time we're disappointed in life introduces the protection of that trust. So sometimes it's that experience as well. We're born with trust, and when something happens, it can have an impact on our experience. So some of the issues are the greater good versus ego. Sometimes it's based on past experiences and situations. Sometimes it's not about you. It's about that other person. And as was it Nicola that raised that? If another person has trust levels. Life experience, the importance of transparency, different levels. It feels as if there's a greater good, then I'm in, but I feel if it's an ego thing, then I'm out. It's about values coming into play. What are the values of the individual? Okay.
Can I insert something just for thoughtfulness?
Yeah,
The greater good, I think, is sometimes I believe that, right? And I believe it from the perspective I have of it. But I think sometimes we get lost in that a little bit because it's hard to define whose definition of greater good. But in a group setting, a team within a company culture, a group setting, I think the collective good is something we can get our hands around or get our beliefs wrapped around. Is we as a small group or a large group or a company or a culture, we have a collective good. It's not this ethereal greater good, right? So it becomes more actionable. And so I just like to kind of contain that a little bit. And because I think it's something we can actually draw to and build communication around. so collective good, I like to replace greater good.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think this was just a thought of an individual. So yeah, I was just sharing it as it came. But I think one of the things that can come out of this discussion as we draw to a close is the fact that really it's sometimes it's not about you. It's about that other person's that individual person's experience with trust and trusting, whether it be leaders or organizations, what is their experience and how can it be built back? And I'm just really kind of gonna draw things to a close, but I just want to say thank you to every single one that's participated. But I'm going to draw things to a close by saying, and this was a quote, I didn't actually get the author, but it was, breaking trust is like crumpling up a piece of paper. You can smooth it over, but it's never ever going to be the same again. And I wonder how true that is in terms of, because I think it's going to be different for everybody. There's going to be different levels. Sometimes you can go back in and trust. Maybe it's a relationship, where you just go back in and you trust again. Maybe that it's a friendship that you just don't feel the same way about. So, ultimately, trust is about how an individual's relationship with it and how they feel about it. And
I think of this, Toni, in leadership. I think of like trust. If we think of the collective good, right? That sometimes leadership is the head, sometimes leadership are the hands, sometimes leadership are the feet, and each of those members of the body, if you will, are important. The great leader is able to sometimes be the head, sometimes be the hands, sometimes be the feet, and allow others their strength and allow them to sometimes be the head, sometimes be the hand.
Absolutely. And that's what I'm saying about the co-production and co-creation and, working through a process with a team. But I just want to say thank you so much, everyone that has joined us today from various different parts. We've got Adafunky, Nicola, Melody, Amadi, Emma, Marina, Anand. Who else have we got? We've got Ali, Dan, Roth, thank you, Jeremiah, Felipe, Yoni, thank you for joining me here. So Denise, and I don't think Henry wanted to join us, but he was here. We've got Dolly, Nicola, Leslie, and Debbie Payne. And thank you everyone so much for participating in this discussion. Hopefully there's some thinking going on around trust, and what it feels like to you, and maybe it's not even about you. Maybe it's about the other person. So
fabulous contributions today. I learned so much from all the participation. Thank you for bringing your gifts today, everybody. That was wonderful.
Absolutely. And I'm going to leave by repeating about the 4 levels, the 4 legs that hold up the table of trust, honesty, consistency, empathy, and respect. And on that note, I'm going to leave it right there. We should have only been 30 minutes and we've gone nearly an hour. So thank you so much, everyone. And next week, we are talking about, is it gratitude, Mike?
Is that where we're going?
I believe it is gratitude next week. So if you need a little bit of gratitude in your life, then come and join us right here. And I'm going to be talking about organizational culture on Wednesday in my audio room on LinkedIn. So do join me. Hope you enjoyed it. And those that are watching back on the replay, hope you enjoyed it too. If there's anything specific you want to hear me speaking about, then do just drop me a direct message. And on that note, thank you so much again, Mike. Thank you. And bye for now. Thank you for spending time with me and my guest today on Critical Reflections with Your Critical Friend. Today, you got just a very, very small sprinkling of Toni's fairy dust. But if you'd like more, then do reach out for speaking or hosting. It's ToniMcLelland.com. For social impact, social justice, or social mobility, check out our work at firstlifegroup.com. I look forward to hearing from you. In the meantime, feel encouraged, be inspired, be empowered, and make a difference. Bye for now.